I was shocked when I saw the first episode of Friday Night Lights when that premiered. And when the quarterback is talking to a bunch of 5th and 6th graders, a kid asks him, "Are you going to be like Troy Aikman or Roger Staubach?" Probably the best known scrambler, but
Me to Joe Namath, you know, as far as, you know, the idea of off the field. He's single, bachelor swinging, I'm married and family, and, you know, he's having all the fun, and, you know, I enjoy sex as much as Joe Namath. Only I do it with one girl, you know.
There you go.
But it's still fun, you know, it's the same thing.
Start a conversation about O.J. Simpson, and you begin by talking about what a great tailback he was. Initially, people are confused, and then they get mad. I mean, it's just so weird now, because even talking about him as a football player, it seems like you're missing, like we're overlooking the obvious. O.J.'s football legacy is destroyed. People will never remember or think about what a great running back he was because of the last half of his life, and there's no way around it. I mean, you don't have to be a genius to figure that out. In his obituary, football player now is mentioned in the first paragraph, but they don't talk about USC or the Bills until paragraph 5. I think people have completely overlooked the fact now that he was clearly the best running back of the 70s. So if you sort of realize that he's the best running back at a time when the most important part of the offensive game is running the football, I think you could easily argue that O.J. Simpson is the most valuable player of the 70s for the entire league. Every time he ran the ball, it was almost like the Bills' equivalent of throwing the ball deep. It might not work, but if you made a mistake, they would score.
You know, when you're fresh in a game, early in the game, you got a lot on your mind. You're thinking of the game plans, you're thinking of things that you saw, because you've been watching it on film all week. As the game goes on, you get tired, and you stop thinking so much, and you start reacting. It's like putting things in that computer. You just push a button, you get the ball, and you go.
I've seen footage of O.J. Simpson running the football dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of times, and I can't, for the life of me, even remember the number of the guy handing him the ball. He had no element of surprise. He had no passing game to sort of change the way defensive played him, and he was incredibly effective. He was not going to play in a Super Bowl. There was no shot. So he has this game on Thanksgiving where he rushes for 273 yards, proof that the best football player in the world is just sort of being wasted on this team going no place.
On Thanksgiving 1976, Buffalo's quarterback completed 4 of 21 passes for 29 yards. O.J. Simpson ran 29 times for a then single-game record 273 yards in defeat.
I tell you, they're behind on the scoreboard, but you get the feeling they've won something here today.
The playoffs eluded Simpson in 10 of his 11 seasons. Jim Brown's single-season rushing record did not. In 1973, playing a 14-game season, Simpson sprinted for a staggering 2,003 yards.
Gaining 2,003 yards in a 14-game schedule is substantially more impressive than Eric Dickerson's best season, or Barry Sanders' best season, or Terrell Davis's best season.
O.J. running left. O.J. 5 more. There it is. He did it. He did it. Yeah. I just wonder if the three of us at this moment fully realize what it has been our great privilege to watch O.J. Simpson run for 2,000 yards.
Beyond seeing what he's tangibly doing, there's then that intangible quality of what would happen if he played for the Steelers? Or what if he was on the Raiders? How many yards would he run for? That actually kind of lifts his greatness.
He came out of the blue. Nobody knew him, didn't look like a football player, didn't act like a star. And then to come out of nowhere to the right place, which was a town that he was just perfect for, Baltimore. Nobody even knew his name when he first got there. Unitas was how he was first introduced.
Eventually, everyone would know the name of this obscure former semi-pro quarterback. Johnny Unitas's career became the sport's most famous Cinderella saga.
This was somebody who came from a working class background, comes to a working class city, and refuses to put on airs. We liked him because he was tougher than any quarterback. The hits that Unitas took somehow added to the whole aura. Baltimore was bereft of any kind of glamour. And so when we began to win, it meant more to Baltimore than it would have meant to any other city. And I really mean that, to any other city. We had nothing else. Unitas belonged to us absolutely, completely.
Unitas's career-defining performance in the 1958 NFL championship game helped change the course of NFL history.
The position was born that day. The great 2-minute drill at the end. Nobody had ever talked of that sort of thing before. The idea that you were going to move down the field, bing, 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 like that. That was really a new concept.
Unitas threw for 349 yards and directed a game-tying drive with time running out. Then, in an unprecedented sudden death overtime period, he threw the Giants off balance with his bold, unpredictable play calling and led the Colts to an historic victory.
Unitas is releasing. The Colts are the champions.
Congratulations. I have never seen a greater job in any football game, pro or college, in my life, John. It was just stupendous.
Thank you very much, Chuck. My job is made easier by the boys up in front, believe me.
That vision of him, I think, was embedded in the American mind thereafter. And in every quarterback since then, whoever it is, one of the Mannings, Brady, whoever, can be placed in that template. It all descends from Johnny Unitas on that December day in 1958.
From 1957 through 1960, Johnny U set a record by throwing at least one touchdown pass in 47 consecutive games. That record still stands, and no one has ever come close to breaking it.
It's more likely that DiMaggio's 56-game hitting streak record would be broken than Unitas's 47 touchdown passes in a row, that it's that extraordinary.
You know, I never knew that I was throwing touchdown passes in every ball game and setting some kind of a record. I don't look at the record books. Did we win? That's all I care about.
It's not important whether Unitas was the greatest. He is the quarterback for all time in the same sort of category as Babe Ruth. Babe Ruth is the baseball player for all time, no matter what kind of records are set, no matter what happens in the game. Unitas is the one and only now. And as such, I think he'll only be more legendary as time passes.
And now, number 2.
This is a picture of Jim Brown, and I treasure that very much, but I treasure the words even more. Bert, a friend over 25 years. You have remained a man, and a man of his word. And that's rare. Your friend, wherever you are, Jim.
Faster than a speeding bullet. More powerful than a locomotive. Able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. The pro game in the pop age had a number of superstars, but only one Superman, and he was Jim Brown.
Jim thought on Sundays, and these are his words, that he was a god, that nobody could hurt him, nobody could touch him, nobody was better. And he proved it every Sunday. He always shocked everybody, I think, how fast he was. And then you tack onto that 225 pounds and mean, tough runner.
In 9 record-setting seasons, Jim Brown led the league in rushing 8 times. Brown was a 3-time MVP. He is the only runner ever to average over 100 yards per game and over 5 yards per carry for a career.
That so-called macho, which I hate that word, but he embodies it.
I played 9 seasons, I never missed a game, and I never laid out on the football field. I might not have the greatest ability of everybody, but the one thing that stands is that when it was time to play, I was there.
He was the NFL's all-time leading rusher and touchdown king when he retired. With an NFL championship and nothing more to accomplish, Brown walked away when he was just 29.
When I quit, I was happy. I had 9 good years. I did all the things I wanted to do. I went into movies. I started talking to pretty girls. Oh, I've never looked back.
Brown and Reynolds first met when they were co-stars in the 1969 Western 100 rifles.
There was a scene where we had to fight each other. So I fought him on a cliff, about 75 feet down to the first rock, and then he got me dangling there. And he said, "You know, I'm really getting kind of sick of this height." I said, "Really? Well, screw you. If we fall, it's going to say Jim Brown, an unknown actor, die." For me, a lot of people want to talk about other actors. Nobody wants to talk to Jim Brown about other football players. They want to talk about Jim Brown. I think even people that never even saw him play, you say Jim Brown, and they sort of whisper, "Did you see him? Did you know him?" He was everything I hoped he would be, and a hell of a lot more.
Jack, I had come all the way from Mexico to see you, man. This is my dream.
When the Steelers drafted Jack Lambert out of Kent State, he carried barely 200 pounds on his 6'4" frame. The fledgling linebacker might not have made it in Pittsburgh's nest, but for the unlikely inspiration of Oakland's Mad Stork.
Everybody said, "Oh, Jack, you know, you're a good football player, but you don't weigh enough. You've got to be at least 235, 240 to play." Well, I just couldn't put the weight on. He was a great hope for me because when I saw him go into the pros, he was tall and skinny, like I was.
Over time now, there's kind of become this understanding that small running backs have an advantage because a lot of times linebackers can't see into the backfield. His height at middle linebacker may have been a positive in the reverse. He may have had a better view of what the offense was doing, and that might explain why he seemed always to be one step ahead of things. He just seemed to make every tackle. If the best player in the middle of the field is making all the plays on the best team, maybe this is the best defender in the league. On a team of the decade, I don't know even who's number 2 for the idea of being the middle linebacker on that roster.
I came out, and the tackle came on me right now, and I stuffed him.
You had him stuffed like this.
I stuffed him,
all the way back
but he cut and dipped in, went back outside, and was around the corner before I could even get off the block.
He was an extremely intellectual linebacker, which I don't think was the association with him at the time, probably because he was toothless, and probably because he looked kind of like a madman. His greatest strength was his mind, so he's like John Rambo, I guess. He was certainly the most intimidating player on a pretty intimidating team.
Jarrella just missed his second field goal. Now Lambert's walking by. Here's Harris telling him something, and grabs the kicker, and Lambert at 6'5" works him over.
During his 11-year career, Lambert won Defensive Rookie of the Year and Defensive MVP awards. He made 9 straight Pro Bowls and was the man in the middle of the steel curtain for 4 Super Bowl wins.
That'll cool your ass off.
It's possible that Jack Ham was a greater outside linebacker than Lambert was as a middle linebacker. But I don't imagine opponents fearing Jack Ham the way they would fear Lambert. Pretty much every play, the quarterback was staring directly at Lambert, who had not only this very scary appearance, but this incredibly active appearance.
I made the comment earlier that we should put dresses on quarterbacks. Got a lot of play out of that one, you know. But I meant it.
Quarterbacks couldn't skirt past Lambert, who became a frequent visitor to opposing backfields and a permanent fixture in Steelers lore.
Pittsburgh likes to sort of perceive itself as having a certain kind of toughness, having a certain kind of team. Lambert really represents that, and there's never going to be a guy who replaces that in Pittsburgh. He will always be perceived as the greatest personification of what Steeler football is supposed to be like. That's what Lambert represents. The Steelers at their highest point.